I am so tired of hearing about this. Anytime, I swear anytime, I am discussing politics with someone that knows I am close to socialism. When we are discussing a problem and they have no base to answer me, they say, "Yes, but what about communism? You think that was so better?" Alright, so before we even begin, we need to create a base for this discussion. I need to say two things first. One, I am not a communist. I have never been, I will probably never be. And I am not, because even though I can admire some ideals of the communist ideology, there are some things that I just don't like. But I will tell you in detail later on. The second point of my base is that using phrases such as "what about that" is not an argument. Trying to defend your thesis by attacking the one you don't agree with, it doesn't mean anything. You are not addressing the problems, you are dodging the question. And if your sole purpose is to win the argument or to convince the other person if he or she is not an idiot, you will probably lose. You would think you are right because you would think you have caught them into a corner, but it's the opposite. If you know politics or even simple discussion, you know when you critique the opposite thesis to prove yours is right, it's because you really have nothing to prove you are right. With that said, I am Gabriel, you are watching Freequality, and I think now we can get into this video. What about communism then? I hear this a lot and I can't take it anymore. Some time ago I had this talk with one of my friends and a new concept came up. It's interesting how communism and revolution is still used to scare, but in a completely different way than how the older generations were used to. When Russia was not a fake democracy but an actual oligarchy, when it was still called the Soviet Union, communism was used by the left wing to scare the establishment on agreeing to those reforms to bring a little bit of justice and equality to workplaces and to the country in general. The Soviet Union was this beacon of fear to always make the classes in power remember that they couldn't do everything they wanted, that they couldn't go against the will of the people for their own interests, because revolution was always around the corner. For a time this strategy worked, and here in Europe we had the same boom economy that the States had, but here our workers truly had rights. For example, to be fired from their jobs, their bosses needed a valid reason, when in other countries you can be fired at any time, even if you do everything you are asked to do. They had paid vacation time. Women wouldn't be fired if they had a child, but they were respected in their maternity. But now that the Soviet Union, I don't know if you noticed, but has fallen, now that real communism doesn't exist, except in some small countries such as Cuba, the idea of the Soviets is used by the richest establishment itself to scare the middle class in particular, but also the masses. The tables have turned so much, and communism is also referred as the worst evil that existed, because Soviets didn't have what we have in modern society, freedom. So, when you, poor worker that has just lost his lower paid job or her, it doesn't matter, when you think you are unlucky, remember that you are free. Free to do what? Well, everything you wish to do. What you say? You don't have the money to do what you want? I am sorry, but it's your fault. It means you haven't sacrificed enough. Come again? You and your wife haven't eaten in 2 days because you gave food to your children instead, and you risk to lose your house too? Yes, but what about communism? You think communism was so much better? This is how it usually goes. Every policy, not even created, just thought to bring some justice to people. Anytime we try to change this society for the better, we try to transform this enslaving competitive economy to something more just, something easier, where normal people has less chances of becoming the next Bill Gates, but also more chances of having a stable life regarding family, food and home. In any of these cases, communism is brought up, and some politicians tell us how by changing society this way, we would lose our freedom. Now explain to me, please, how having the possibility of going to an hospital without paying thousands of dollars of bill is attacking my freedom of expression. Explain to me how having universities accessible for everybody without the barrier of the cost, explain to me how that would affect my right to a fair trial. Communism didn't have democracy. You are right, it didn't. Both the ideology and the practical realization of communism had another kind of freedom in mind, because one of the concepts of Marxism is that if people don't have to struggle for their needs, there is no need for political discussion. You may agree, I personally don't, but anyhow, none of the policy I told you are communism. Having a society more just is not communism, is justice. And Soviets or no Soviets, our way of freedom is an hypocrisy. It doesn't work, because everything you can do is so driven by the money you don't have that you can be a god or you can be powerless. All because of a simple concept that having a right doesn't mean you are free. Having the possibility to use that right, that is freedom. Rights are not necessarily possibilities. This is what young liberals don't understand. That having more rights is useless if you can't fulfill them. If anything, it's the contrary, because those that have the resources to use their rights will always have power over those that lack them. And this is not communism, my friend, this is our modern world. In the end, the reason why I made this video is not only to critique our capitalistic society, even if I'm never tired of that, it's not only to attack the stupidity of some popular political recurring themes. What I really want, what I will never stop fighting for, is hope. The problem is not communism, is that our political discussion has killed any hope of a better society, of a better world. What I'm seeing recently is really scary. It's the concept that the status quo is right, period. That if you are poor, it's not the system being wrong, it's simply your fault. That there is nothing wrong in the world anymore, and if you try to fight for something different from what already exists, you are either mistaken, or you are a traitor, or a fucking communist. The point is not communism, the point is us. What we are, what we do, how our economy works. Not communism, our economy. Our economy, not communism. Please, understand this. It's not about something, it's about us. This is politics. This is a true critic of society. And this is the way you change things for the better. In the end, this is politics, this is democracy, it's participation, it's addressing the problems, it's fighting to create a better world. This is freedom, this is justice, this is Freequality.
When you feel it's hopeless, when you think that you lost,